Good afternoon and welcome to the Pollock Theater. I'm Ross Melnick, director of the Carsey-Wolf Center, UC Santa Barbara Center for Media Studies. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this afternoon's exciting panel discussion, Moviegoing and Film Exhibition in Flux, part of our ongoing connectivity series that examines the evolving meaning of connection in our contemporary moment. This series embraces connectivity as a framework for thinking critically about the ways in which people use media to connect with ideas and with one another, from the shared experience of moviegoing to the collective bonds forged through storytelling and public dialogue. While the term often invokes our ever-increasing entanglement with digital infrastructure and social media networks, this series reimagines the term not only as a technical feature of media, but as a humanistic value and a condition of social and public life. Movies in a theater. At one time, that was the only way to see them. Now you have many choices. On your phone, on your laptop, on your HD TV. So why venture out to a movie theater to see a new film? The answer is all around you. Theater architect S. Charles Lee famously opined that the show starts on the sidewalk, that the moment you see the Pollock, hear the buzz in the lobby, the expectant hum inside this theater, and the sights and sounds that you're about to witness are all part of that show. At the Carsey-Wolf Center, our research, curation, and exhibition seeks not only to present the art of film, television, and other media as its creators intended, but to reinforce the context and cultural experience of their exhibition and reception. In addition to my role as director of the Carsey-Wolf Center and as professor of film media studies, to most exhibitors, I'm best known as one of the co-founders of Cinema Treasures, which was founded 25 years ago. The website then as now is the largest global database of movie theaters with historical and contemporary data on over 61,000 theaters from over 200 countries over 125 years. I've worked with Lowe's Cineplex and Santa Barbara's Granada Theater on the 100th anniversary, and advised other theater chains and independent theaters and written 3 books on the exhibition, Cinema Treasures, American Showman, and Hollywood's Embassies. But like you, at heart, I'm just a moviegoer, a cinephile, and a movie theater fan. I believe intrinsically in the theatrical experience and to curating your movie night out, seeking IMAX 70mm when you can find it, community mission-driven cinemas like Vidiots and American Cinematheque whenever I can, or large single-screen cinemas like the Fox Village in Westwood or the Arlington Theater in Santa Barbara when the latest blockbuster comes out. I also love drive-ins, dine-in cinemas, historic theaters, and glistening new megaplexes. Give me the Cinerama Dome, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and a giant popcorn, and my soul is at peace. I've watched Gone with the Wind with Ted Turner, sat behind Danny DeVito at Vidiots for the War of the Roses, with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in a preview of That Thing You Do, went on a first date with my wife to the Arlington to see Jerry Maguire, saw Goodfellas with my parents at a shoebox multiplex in rural Massachusetts, can still remember the electricity in the air at the Sherry Theater in Boston for Pulp Fiction over 30 years ago, watching Schindler's List opening weekend in Florida with an audibly sobbing crowd, the stillness of the breathless air of the Fox Village Theater during the opening moments of Saving Private Ryan. All 4 times I watched Oppenheimer in IMAX 70mm, and the dozen times I have screened Cinema Paradiso for my students here at the Pollock and watched stolid men, too overcome with emotion to speak. There is just nothing, and I mean nothing, like a great movie in a great theater with a great crowd. I'm deeply honored to have an illustrious panel to talk about the opportunities and challenges for filmmakers, distributors, and exhibitors in the theatrical exhibition space as we come to the end of 2025. And now, please allow me to introduce our panelists this afternoon. First to the stage is one of my favorite people, Brad Silberling, who is not only an incredible film and television director, producer, and writer, whose work includes Casper, City of Angels, Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events, Moonlight Mile, and Ordinary Man, but he's also an alum of UC Santa Barbara and an invaluable member of the advisory board of the Carsey-Wolf Center. He has also served as director and executive producer of the CW's Reign, Jane the Virgin, Dynasty, and Charmed, as well as NBC's Heartbreaker. Please help me welcome Brad Silberling. Next, Maggie Mackay serves as Vidiots executive director. She developed her interest in film as a child at her local New York City video store, Rare Bird Video, and independent movie theaters including Film Forum and the Waverly. For 13 years, she served as senior programmer of the Los Angeles Film Festival and director of nominations for the Independent Spirit Awards. She has held positions at Sundance Institute, AFI Fest, and Aspen Film, among other arts organizations advocating for filmmakers and connecting audiences to cinema. Mackay returned to her video store roots when she joined Vidiots in 2016 as its first executive director. Please welcome Maggie Mackay. Next, Jason Reitman is an Academy Award-nominated filmmaker who most recently directed Saturday Night. Reitman made his feature film debut with the 2006 Sundance hit Thank You for Smoking. He earned Academy Award nominations for directing Juno and a personal favorite, Up in the Air. Yeah. Reitman has collaborated with screenwriter Diablo Cody on 4 critically acclaimed films, including the incredible Young Adult, Tully, and Jennifer's Body. In 2021, Reitman directed and co-wrote Ghostbusters Afterlife, and in 2023, produced and co-wrote its sequel, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. In early 2024, Reitman assembled 35 prominent film directors in order to save the Westwood Village Theater in a project we will hear about shortly. Please welcome Jason Reitman. And our last panelist is Jackie Brenneman, founding partner of the Fithian Group and the former executive vice president and general counsel of the National Association of Theater Owners, who has spent her career shaping the future of moviegoing, from launching National Cinema Day to helping found the Cinema Foundation. Her work brings together filmmakers, exhibitors, and audiences to reimagine how and why we gather in the dark to share stories. She lives in Burbank with her family, where she serves on the city's Cultural Arts Commission and continues to champion storytelling as a civic and communal act. She is part of the team that has now launched the Attend theatrical platform to revitalize independent film distribution and marketing through technology, transparency, and respect for filmmakers and theater owners. Please welcome Jackie to the Pollock stage.
So we're all here tonight and watching this broadcast because we love movies. Where did we fall in love with the movies? At the movie theater. Watching a film in the theater with an audience is an experience. We can laugh together, cry together, scream and fright together, perhaps sit in devastated silence together. And in a time in which the world can feel very divided, this is more important than ever. It's a communal experience you simply don't get at home. And right now, the theater-going experience is under threat. Movie theaters, especially independently owned theaters, are struggling, and it's up to us to support them. During the pandemic, we lost nearly 1,000 screens in the US, and we continue to lose them regularly. If we don't reverse this trend, we'll be losing a vital part of our culture. This is my battle cry. Filmmakers, keep making films for the big screen. I know I will. Distributors, please focus first and foremost on the theatrical releases of your films. Neon did that for me, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Parents, introduce your children to feature films in movie theaters, and you'll be molding the next generation of movie lovers and filmmakers. And for all of us, when we can, please watch movies in the theater, and let's keep the great tradition of the movie-going experience alive and well. And one last thing.
You still have to play them off. I want to ask each one of you, what's your first memory of going to the movies, and why do you care so much about exhibition as filmmakers, distributors, and exhibitors? Brad, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I went to what was then a rare, I wouldn't call it a multiplex, there were 2 screens. This was in Valley Circle in the San Fernando Valley. I was seeing Beneath the Planet of the Apes. First memory. I know I've been told, I've seen other pictures, and it was that experience of knowing, I asked myself the question, how quickly can I get back in this theater to just viscerally experience what I just saw? We were talking backstage. I was not of the VHS era, you know, for me, other than an annual viewing on CBS of The Wizard of Oz. If you want a repeat viewing, it was either the $1 Million Movie that would run, you know, the same picture would run every night, but that was on the television screen. And I just remember all of it. I remember the feeling, I remember the drapes, I remember the seats. And it coincided with, I mean, my most formative experience was at the Plit, which was in Century City, no longer exists. Yeah. And the Plit was where I went to see first day, first showing, June of 1975 to see Jaws. And because it was the first showing, it was not sold out. It was a Friday, I think it was a Friday. And it was the first place that had the big recliner seats that were amazing, airline seats. The problem was it was not full. I was 11. The recliners were so big, I couldn't see other people. Oh. And I almost fled when Alex Kintner got eaten because I couldn't find my peeps. I was so scared, but I stuck through it. And that, again, that theater was incredible. So it is where I still associate that porous experience between viewer and film.
Maggie?
My first memory of a movie theater was my dad taking me. We had no money at all. And I don't know how he did it, but he took me to see 101 Dalmatians, which was preceded in those days by little short animated movies, which was a movie about Mary being taken by a little donkey. I think it was called The Little Donkey. To Bethlehem. I was raised as an atheist and had no understanding of what was happening, but was like, whatever that is, I want to watch it again and again and again. And then the first time I really started developing the desire to watch people watch movies, I don't make movies, was when I was, I think, about 6 and was taken to E.T. and immediately needed others to see E.T. so that I could speak with them about E.T. and somehow wrangled my daycare center to take a group of kids to E.T. and then sat with the kids and said, it's gonna get really sad, but I promise you everything is gonna be okay. So we're just gonna, and I watched them and made sure they were okay. Oh. And that was the first time that I really realized I wanted to, whatever, it was the birth of wanting to watch people watch movies.
Amazing. Jason?
My parents told me stories of taking me to see Michael Mann's Thief as a little kid.
Oh my God.
And
40th anniversary.
Yeah, they thought that was funny. I of course saw Ghostbusters a million times as a kid, and I remember sitting in the theater and watching that. But oddly, it's funny, when you asked the question, the first thing that popped in my head was I remember being a little kid and seeing the old THX logo they would put up in front of the movie, and how much it scared me. That it scared me almost as much as the movie. The orchestra would come in, discordant, playing, out, and then it slowly comes in, and it would just get louder and louder. And I remember as a kid thinking it was dangerous, thinking, they may blow my eardrums out. Like they said, I'm not sure if is this safe? Like I remember thinking that as a child. And the way that it would suddenly come together felt big, it felt extraordinary. And as a kid, you have these feelings, it's exactly what you said about E.T., where you don't know everything's gonna be okay. Mm-hmm. And then it does become okay. And that joy that comes with that became connected to the filmic experience of going to a movie and it confronting my worst fears and letting me know that there is a pathway through, and that feeling that comes through as you exit the theater. And the THX logo gave me that feeling.
I love that logo. Right? Jackie?
I don't have, I started going to the movies before I can remember. The first movie-related memory was when I went to see All Dogs Go to Heaven. And it was so popular that they had there was news cameras above the parking lot, and we ran home to see if our car was on the news. We were part of something really big, and that was the first time I realized that a movie could be part of this big conversation. But I mean, I was the kid that went to the movies every single week, multiple times. But I went to see Titanic, was the first time that I became obsessed with a movie. It came out right when my hormones were also coming out. And I could not, I went to that movie 6 times in the theater, and my mom finally was like, you can't go again until you can go one day, without crying about Leo dying. And I couldn't, so I ended it 6 times. But I mean, the kind of cool thing about movies is that they anchor our memories. We have very few things in our lives that can help us remember, that are kind of a door to everything else. And every movie you see in a theater unlocks the rest of that day. If you think about a movie you saw in a theater, you'll remember, and you'll remember all kinds of other stuff too. So there are these magical touchstones to the rest of our whole history, which is amazing.
I've never thought about how threatening a title All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah.
It's horrible. That
It
movie
sounds
is,
like something a mobster would say to you.
it's a mob movie. There's
Don't worry,
mob
your dog won't
dogs.
feel any pain.
Yeah. My kids just recently watched it, and I was like, I will not have any part of this. You watch this without me.
No.
Well, I hate to bring back crying, but I did want to go back to the origin story of some PTSD, which is that a lot of the conversation has been about, just to bring us a little bit forward, about the changes since the pandemic. And I think you mentioned Ghostbusters. You had one of the central films that was kind of delayed because of the pandemic. I wonder if you could talk about the conversation with Ghostbusters and Afterlife and how the delays took place because of the pandemic in terms of release.
I mean, there's no good spin on it. I mean, it was an awful time. It was an awful time for movies, and we certainly had made a movie that was meant to be seen together. It was meant to be seen as an audience. I had a profound experience with my father when we played CinemaCon in Las Vegas, which is the first time we showed it in front of a big audience. And when it was big, it was at Caesar's Palace in front of 1,000 people. And my father had not gone to any test screening because we were in COVID, and he didn't want to get sick. And so the first time we sat there with an audience, and we're watching this movie play, and man, is it playing. I mean, halfway through, we really had the audience. And my father was sitting next to me, and he leans in, and I thought, oh, this is going to be the moment where he tells me how proud of me he is. And he just went, you have to lose that shot. I don't know why that shot is still in the film. It's just killing me there. So look, oddly, the delay gave us a little bit more time to work on visual effects, so there was one plus to it. But look, I think for anyone who loves movies, that was a heartbreaking moment in which we not only felt people not going to the movies, and we couldn't go to the movies ourselves, but we felt people falling out of love or out of practice with going to movie theaters. And it's so easy as a filmmaker to watch people fall in love with streaming and, in general, get comfortable with not leaving the house. And that was terrifying.
Yeah, and that's a perfect lead into my conversation with you, Jackie, about what was going on the trade organization side to save all these cinemas, because there was a real concern. I wonder if you can walk us through that. I'm going to just play a clip first.
Oh, cool.
At this point, most theaters can't go on too much longer. We just simply can't. We've been closed for 7 to 8 months now. The thought of closure, it keeps me up at night. It would be certainly devastating for the individual theater company, but beyond that, it would be devastating to our local communities. As an industry, we certainly need assistance. Without that, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to the other side.
Could you tell us about that? It was you all of you put in a Herculean effort. Can you talk to us just briefly about that?
It's really hard to see that. Yeah, that was a hard time, because obviously even before the pandemic, there was so much effort being made by the people that should be our partners to change consumer behavior, to subsidize skipping. Because, streaming, we all had movie stores and movies. We all watched more movies in the home than the theaters for many, many years. And so it wasn't streaming. It was the public perception of streaming. And that was already getting in the way, and we were losing exclusivity. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of all of it, we're hit with a pandemic. And it was all we could do to think about ways to save the industry. And I remember, I actually don't remember. There's so little memory for me from that time, because it was 20-hour days. My kids, my daughter was at home doing homeschool, and I never one time saw her teacher. I have no idea what her teacher looked like. I don't know how to log into her computer. I didn't help. I did not exist. Yeah. And, I have this really vivid memory of being on a Zoom with my boss, John, at the time. And there'd been some momentum in the Save Our Stages bill. And we were trying to write our own that would allow publicly traded companies to have access to federal relief. And because, we had big publicly traded companies on our board, and ultimately we couldn't get any Republicans to support it. And if we couldn't get Republicans, we weren't going to get anything. So, I'm on this call, and I was just like, what if we just attached ourselves to save our stages. Because there's some momentum there. They don't have enough Republican support. We can get Republican support. We can get this over the finish line. And because we didn't write it, maybe our board members would support the fact that it's not for publicly traded companies. And John was like, well, heads will roll for this. But it was the only thing we could do. And then that became, one of the most beautiful and terrible times of my entire life was building a coalition and getting everyone to support it. We had, over 100 filmmakers wrote on a list, supporting, acts to get federal relief to movie theaters. $2.7 billion went to movie theaters. But then once they were able to reopen, the content still has not come back. So there's still so much hanging over the industry after all of that, after all of the proof that people will go back. So many journalists were telling me no one's ever going to go back to the movies. No one's going to go back. But the thing is, when they were allowed to go back, people did go back. And I think the entire industry needs to spend all of its time and energy asking itself why. If you can watch anything you want at home for free, why are you going back to the movies? And lean into that, not lean into audiences think it's too expensive, sticky floors, whatever. Ignore all of that. Because we had sticky floors and terrible sound and projection in 1978 and people went to the movies. That cannot be the reason people aren't going. We have to lean into the why of it all. And anyway.
I have sticky floors at home, frankly.
Yes, you do.
Definitely.
Maggie, you had a very different pandemic experience because while all this was going on and Jason was trying to get this film finally to come out in theaters and Jackie's trying to save the world, thank you both for your amazing efforts. You were hunkered down in Eagle Rock trying to get Vidiots open. Can you talk about the history of the organization a little bit and then what the move to Eagle Rock and the theater and the video store and everything?
Yeah, I had a slightly different experience because I had already been, for a long time, Vidiots is a now 40-year-old, we just turned 40 last week, 40-year-old institution in Los Angeles. We opened in '85 as an independent video store, but it was always kind of a film hub. It was always way beyond a video store. There were screenings going on, there were parties, there were Russ Meyer, signing bra straps for his birthday, and whenever year they did that. A polka party for Les Blank. They were very much part of the community, and a lot of filmmakers and a lot of people who ended up in the film industry grew up and really went to film school at Vidiots. The collection is now over 70,000 titles on DVD and Blu-ray with a rare VHS collection that is mind-blowing. If I do say so myself, I didn't put it together. I was 10 in 1985. But my experience, pandemic, was a little bit different because when I got involved, I had been the crazy video store lady since way before I joined Vidiots. My professional bio for years has talked about becoming myself in the video store and in the movie theater. And so for a long time, I would go to parties and people, you could just see it. They'd be like, oh shit, she's gonna come over here and talk about video stores. Here she comes. So when suddenly I wasn't the only one in the room saying, we need to watch what streaming is doing with theatrical and video stores. We need to have concern for physical media. This is important. I stopped being the only one in the room. And, most people don't want to tell a woman that she's right, but I could see it in their eyes where they were like, oh, the crazy lady, video store lady might have had a point. And so for me, in some ways, my value proposition got easier and went up. The conversation for me got easier. The downside was that I had asked a lot of people, including Jason and other people, for a lot of money and was going to watch it go down the toilet because I have a lease agreement. I don't own our building. I have wonderful landlords, saints. They're absolute saints. But I didn't know in the moment. I didn't want to kick the beast and say, are you going to kick us out if we can't afford to pay you rent for 3 years? They did not. It all shook out. But yeah, I was the same way. I was trying to teach a kid to read And then just in my mind every day going, how am I going to tell Ryan Johnson that the $100,000 he gave me is gone? It's all gone. We haven't started construction. We have a 100-year-old building. Things gonna fall into the goddamn ground. There's water pouring through the ceiling. I don't have a trust fund. I don't have a board of directors with endless amounts of money. But one thing I can say about people in the arts is that when you're backed into a corner, you claw your way out. And the one thing that it did do was people were like, oh shit, we do not want to see this go away. And the day that the Cinerama Dome announced kaput, we got $25,000 in donations. Wow. For Vidiots, because people were getting scared. And filmmakers were starting to realize, like, wait a minute, if theatrical goes away, and there are no more video stores and there is no more physical media, what do we own? What do we have? What do we do? And then I'm over here going like, I gotcha. I'm gonna do my best to take care of the work that you've made, and I'm gonna do my best to make sure that even after we're all gone, there is an audience for this.
Can I tell you something? What you're describing, it's hard for people to imagine. Literally, if you're a filmmaker, we're dealing with this on our creative rights committee at the DGA right now. If you're a filmmaker and you make a film for Netflix, an original for Netflix, you have, as the filmmaker, you have no concrete copy of that film. There are times that they'll describe some of the platforms as they can move things into the digital graveyard. Jason and I and other filmmakers, one of the cornerstones of our deals has always been, I get a print of my movie. Well, prints don't exist anymore. Chances are, unless we hassle them, we may not get a DCP. So you can be a filmmaker and in this moment have no record of your work.
Yep.
That's real, and it's one of the things that we're going to be fighting for in this next negotiation, which seems crazy to me.
That DG, part of that DGA conversation, I believe, I don't want to take credit for it, but was Sean Heder, who won an Oscar for Coda. She came to Vidiots. She's a dear friend for many, many years, way before she made a feature film. And she said, I want to have a section at Vidiots. And I said, Shawnee, you can't. And she said, why? And I said, because what will I put in it? There is literally nothing for me to put into your section. And I said, you need to go to Netflix, you need to go to your distributors and demand that they give you physical media. Then I can make sure that you have a section at Vidiots. And that, I believe, is part of how that conversation happened. She was stunned when she realized that she could not be represented in that space.
No, it's absolutely true. So it's not, a distant fear, it's upon us.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at what you've built over at Vidiots.
One of the weirdest and most interesting video stores in these parts is Vidiots.
We're the only store in Los Angeles that does carry the video artists and the independent filmmakers.
We have a big cult section which draws in a lot of people.
Welcome to Vidiots. I'm Ifi Wadiwe, and I'm a fan of movies. Here at Vidiots, we offer over 50,000 titles for you to take home for a video rental. If you want to see the titles we have, you can go online and check in, or you can stop by in person, and one of our staff can give you a recommendation. You can buy your tickets online or just walk up. You never know who's going to be selling tickets. Fake trench coats and mustache won't fool us here. You got to be 21 or over to drink at Vidiots. Keep an eye out for the exits. They may be behind you. In the event of emergency, the house lights will come up and the aisle lights will illuminate and guide you to the nearest exit.
Don't text. Don't talk. Enjoy the show.
Equitable, affordable access to film feels good in a place like this.
Jason and Brad, you've also been building something in Westwood, and I want to take a look at that and then have you come back and talk about what's going on with the Fox Village Theater in Westwood. But let's go ahead and take a look at that.
So we start here with some great news for an iconic movie theater right here in Los Angeles. The historic Westwood Village Theater is set to reopen sometime in 2027. Now, this is all because a group of directors, led by Jason Reitman, took over the theater early last year, known as the Village Director Circle. The group of more than 30 directors made it their mission to save the 100-year-old movie palace by funding a remodel to make it into a screening and event facility. Yesterday, Reitman announced he and his fellow directors had partnered with American Cinematheque. They will program, manage, and be the operating partner for the venue. Now, Reitman posted a mock-up on Instagram of what he and his fellow directors hope the theater will look like in about a year or so. In his caption, he wrote, "If the Village Theater in Westwood is a cathedral to cinema, we found our congregation." Again, the goal is to have it open sometime in 2027.
Can I zoom out for a second and ask when you came up with the idea, how you got all these amazing people like Brad? How did you come to this idea? How did you get everyone to do this? And then how did the American Cinematheque deal come about?
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up going to movies in Westwood, just like Brad. And Westwood used to be a place where, there was, 10 or 12 movie theaters. There's only 3 there, by the way, now. Yeah. The UA is now a CVS, and the National is a condo tower with a Baja Fresh in it, and the Man Westwood is now a grocery store, and they're just gone. And the Village was the most beautiful of all of them. It's a 1,400-seat theater. It's 100 years old. It's funny, hearing you talk about the Vidiots and all your fears, I felt so much kinship with you as you were saying that. I mean, this is everything I fear right now is will we actually get this thing to rise? And anyhow, when it went for sale, my worst fears were, on its best case scenario, it was going to wind up an Apple store. And I put an offer down on the building, and I reached out to every director I know, including Brad, and I said, will you come with me on this? And what was extraordinary is every director, not every, but almost every director said yes. All of us dreamt as kids of owning a movie theater, and all of us believe in the idea that we were meant to come together to watch movies. So we pooled our money, we bought the building, we spent the last year working on work that needs to be done on it with an architectural firm, a great firm, and we started narrowing down who was going to run this theater, who was going to be our tenant. And we had been talking to major movie chains when American Cinematheque raised their hand. And Cinematheque has been doing, just like Vidiots, an extraordinary job of creating a membership, creating a sense of community. When you show up for a screening, either at Vidiots or American Cinematheque, people are, unlike going to an AMC where people are showing up 30 minutes late, when you go to Vidiots, people are there early. People are there, and half the reason they're early is because they love that theater and they love that sense, the programming. But I think half the reason we show up early is to see each other, is to be around other people who love movies. So we have a big lift ahead of us. We're in the midst of our capital campaign. We're raising money because we have a lot of work we do need to do on the building so we can reopen in 2027. But we are so much more confident knowing now that we have Cinematheque, who has figured out a way to program films and fill big houses in LA, like the Egyptian and like the Arrow. I mean, we're talking about like 500-seat houses, and they're selling them out night after night.
Yeah, and I want to.
Well, I'm just going to tell you. So here's, if you dig under that. So Jason, early on, after he got this group together, and it happened, he started wisely trying to schedule some Zooms where we could all come together. Yeah. Imagine, and I don't know if you could dig into that photo, 30 directors all talking about what the carpeting is going to look like. And his courage in sort of trying to open these conversations, and every one of us having very big opinions. The other great thing, that photo, so it was such a cause for celebration, and he did such an incredible thing by reaching out to everybody. It was like, here's a crazy thought, would you? And everyone says yes. And so when essentially it was closing, the deal was closing, Jason called everyone and said, hey, this was like a year ago, February. He's like, is everyone free this morning? We just want to go and maybe get a picture together. So we did a photo of an interior, but the exterior. And if you can imagine everybody pulling together, there's Chris Nolan and Steven Spielberg and our friend JJ and blah, blah, blah. We all got together like a bad high school photo on the sidewalk. The looks of these kids walking by, thinking they were being totally punked. It was hysterical, but it was one of the most beautiful gatherings. We all just hung out together in the lobby. And that's been it. It was such an awesome, just complete act of courage. Everybody is still, and we're really excited. Yeah, the culture of the Cinematheque as an operator just made so much sense because we would have these conversations about the other potential ones, and everybody was sort of like trying to find the comfort level. And again, on the granular level, the conversations we've had about, okay, each one of the owners has to work in the ticket booth once a year. It's beautiful.
What Maggie's done, though, I think, is shining a light, though. It's about community. We talk a lot about, why do we go to the movies? How do we bring people back to the movies? And I think we've done ourselves a disservice as an industry by talking way too much about this is how big our screens are and this is how good our sound is. It's like, yeah, people have that at home, too. What they don't have is that sense of community. We want to come together. Our instinct is to. And that's what you feel when you go to Vidiots, is you feel this community that feels exactly like the nature of that store. It feels cool, it feels fun, and people this is something that people buy tickets to, 2 weeks in advance, are looking forward to it. And what we're hoping to capture at the Village is a similar sense of that, a sense of community around programming that is not only classic films, but new films too. That there's also been this kind of disparate nature of, okay, there's theaters that play new movies and there's theaters that play old movies, and that's for cult people and weirdos, and this is for just normal people. And the truth is, we all love movies, and we actually like all the movies that are playing in both places. It's the same people, and we're hoping that our theater, like Vidiots, can be a shining light of this is what a movie theater can be.
Well, on that point, so Maggie and I were talking about this we had a little brunch today, but the idea of growth has been completely relegated. People think movie theaters are dying. Everyone thinks that, and it's a declining industry, and it's just about keeping the people that go and having them go more times. And what we're actually seeing, if you look in the cracks, is growth, right? What Maggie is doing is bringing more people to the movies, that people that might not have been going. But also you see this with Indian cinema. That is a part of the industry that has grown. It has doubled in 5 years. Yep. But we're not talking about it. But what that tells you is that there were people that were not going to the movies because they were not being programmed to. And it starts off small, but then now eventually it's a meaningful part of this industry. And I talk to movie theater owners around the world, and they're all like, I need more Indian cinema. And it's like, no, you just need more. You need more romantic comedies. You cannot say one romantic comedy doesn't do well, so no romantic comedies will do well. Yeah. We've lost how to market to people, so you have to have regular movie-going habit for people to be marketed to. But growth is totally possible, but you cannot capture that at scale if everything is just a one-off. So being able to kind of gather those stories and start to do it and replicate it and tell filmmakers how to do it and movie theater owners what your actual business is, because you're completely right. If the movie experience is about a big screen, then first of all, that does not help with the price argument. If I'm not going to see it on IMAX, I guess I won't go, but the last time I went to the movie, it was IMAX, and so it was $80 for two of us, so movies are too expensive. Movies aren't too expensive. There's $5 movies most places, and you can go to matinees. But also independent filmmakers aren't allowed to compete on price. Price is kind of static, which makes no sense either. But on your point about rep versus first run, that's also the studios control that. So Disney will not let a commercial movie theater play their rep. Right. Only rep houses can play their rep. Movie theater owners are begging for this stuff, and the studios won't let them have it. Which, again, why? There's money for everyone.
I think they need proof of concept, and I think that's what I'm hoping to do with our theater in Westwood is more proof of concept, that if you have a new Nolan movie coming out, and you can play the Christopher Nolan movies leading up to it, or maybe Christopher Nolan programmed it, or these are the movies that influence the film that are about to come out. There have been moments where directors like Quentin Tarantino have said, everyone needs to watch this, and we all go, okay, I guess we're gonna go watch that. I mean, I think that was my introduction to Hong Kong action film, was Quentin being like, you have to watch this. Or there was a moment where Roger Ebert talked about Lucas Moodysson, this Swedish filmmaker, and I was like, oh, I guess I need to go watch his movies. I feel like an idiot. But you're right. It's a formula that works. They just need proof.
But they're not going to believe that yours is proof because you're a bunch of famous filmmakers in Los Angeles. They don't believe that they think that she just got lucky. Everyone just keeps thinking all of these things are flukes instead of adding them together, and that's the goal. Is how do all
I'm
of
more
the
of an
people
optimist.
have?
I think they will. I think there is a way to show them.
Okay, well then I'd compel you to
Okay.
actually focus on data and focus on how you can tell a story of growth, how you can tell a story about people that didn't go to the movies before and are going now, people that are seeing new things. I urge you to tell that story and tell it to the press and tell it to everyone you can.
Yeah, I think part of it will be seeing it in other places. And again, it's one thing to have it in Los Angeles. What I'd really love to see also is people take advantage of the movie theaters and perhaps also the grand palaces they have in each one of these cities that are languishing.
What a great lead-in to a bunch of slides that I have coming up next, including this one. This is about the directors pushing us to go back to the movies. And to your point, this next slide is about people actually saving cinema. So behind you, you'll see Cillian Murphy, Sean Baker, Jack Lowden, Kevin Smith. There's around the country, even into Canada, these are in England. This is happening around the world, that just like with the amazing work you're doing, it seems like directors and actors are leading us, and of course exhibitors are trying to will us into the exact thing you're talking about. I'm curious, as directors and with your colleagues, you mentioned Christopher Nolan, what can happen, Brad, this is maybe even for you as well, because it's about the DGA. What can you do as directors and within the Guild and within your voice in the industry to really argue for the importance of theatrical the way these people are trying to save their local cinemas? I'm curious, just what do you think other filmmakers like yourselves can do beyond the amazing work you're doing at the Village?
I think it comes down to it comes back to creative rights. And our guild, whether it's fighting for an actual tangible copy of your film, if it's fighting for which we have a right to preview our director's cuts in front of a live audience in a theater. And again, even the Netflixes and the Amazons have tried to say, oh, why can't you just use our watch club, which is like basically a bunch of people are sent a code and then they get data back. So interestingly, we have so many beautiful and hard fought for creative rights that themselves are the Trojan horse. It's like if we can fortify those and again through that keep re-encouraging the theatrical experience, and for younger filmmakers too, because if they get to go preview their movie in a house of 300 people, they'll feel what that experience is. They may never have had that experience. So the Guild, and again, every 3 years we have our contracts that come up. Obviously, AI is in the swirl of conversation, and that obviously suddenly there you are at the Sphere with the Wizard of Oz that's been shifted. So it's very complex. And again, the DGA is trying to make sure that the authorial stamp of the filmmaker remains intact, but also the delivery system. And I think that's where the DGA can be helpful, is again, just making sure the filmmakers realize this is the way it was meant to be seen. It's your right. Think about that. It's your right to be in a theater with your film.
Well, and not to be the lawyer, but that's what I am, so I have to be that sometimes. But like the industry does not fully run on contracts the way it should still. I mean, movie theaters and studios don't have a contract. So the theatrical window is just a fun surprise. But I'm not kidding. That was like my first week on the job. Everyone's talking about the window, and I asked what the contracts say, and the answer is contracts. What are you talking about? So I spent a year and a half digging into the data to see if it was a material term, and surprise, surprise, it is. But you guys have power to put things in contracts and to spell it out really clearly. And the thing that the data is so clear. If you look on Netflix, you can see their top 10. Their top 10 on any given week is 90% theatrical titles. Theatrical titles that between the time that they were in theaters and the time they're on Netflix is like 7 years. Those movies all had a window of well over 100 days. So you cannot tell me consumers don't want theatrical titles. You cannot. They are overwhelmingly choosing theatrical titles when they are watching streaming. But streaming reports minutes watched. Streaming reports that. So if we do not have the physical infrastructure of movie theaters, if they do not exist, you cannot economically justify making a movie, right? You don't have, it doesn't make sense. And if you're going onto a minutes watched business, you're Netflix and you've got $10 million, you're giving that money to a series, not a movie. The only reason they have movies on Netflix now is because they have to, because there are movie theaters. You erase the infrastructure, you erase the art form.
100%.
And I'm thrilled that you exist, because I think you talking about the numbers is really important, because that is the language that a lot of the people who make the big decisions speak. They speak in numbers, and I think you're speaking their language. For me, the other half of the conversation is cultural. I don't think there are many movie theaters that are offering an inspiring experience other than what is happening on screen. I think we want to go out and be inspired. And sometimes the bar is pretty low. The Museum of Ice Cream is kicking ass. The Museum of Balloons, crushing. I've seen...
It's popping.
It's popping. Escape rooms that are like, built out of cardboard and are in strip malls, charge more than movies, and they kill. So we want to go out and have experiences. We want to go out and come together, and frankly, an Instagram photo from the Van Gogh live thing or the Museum of Balloons or whatever, if they are successful, then I believe movie theaters can be successful, but we actually have to offer people something that is inspiring from the moment you walk in the door, because it's the totality of the experience. And what we're offering is something that is not worth the money right now. The movie's worth the money, but I don't think the experience is. I don't think the experience of how you feel when you're in the lobby, how you feel as you're buying the popcorn, the shitty lighting as you're sitting there waiting for the movie to begin or watching, the 30 minutes of commercials, how the fact that the lights pop on the moment the credits start, and where there's zero respect for the feeling that you have having watched a movie. I don't feel like the people who own the movie theaters care about me as a consumer or as a viewer. So, and look, I'm a believer in membership. I made Up in the Air because I do collect air miles. I do believe in kind of weird loyalty to companies, and I think that's one of the success of Vidiots is that membership idea. And I think it's the numbers, but I think it's also cultural. I want to feel drawn to the movies no matter what is playing, because a night at the movies is just going to feel special.
It's all culture, right? The movies are the most human thing we can possibly do. I kind of joke that you can't human alone, right? We are meant to be collective, and the only place we can do that, it's the beginning of the human record, is art, and it's shared art, it's storytelling, it's how we actually learn things. It's the only way. It is the most human thing we can do, and you cannot experience a story in isolation. You can't. It is meant to be communal.
Yeah.
And also, and you're completely right on culture, right? I was a fat theater kid. The fact that I can spend $10 and go to Vidiots and feel cool is priceless. Because when you go there, you feel cool, right? If I don't always get to feel cool, and I don't get to, if I don't, but I could pay $10 and go be cool, and and I can also go to dress all up and go to Wicked and be with a bunch of other people feeling my theater side. I can do that if the theaters are really curating and welcoming people. But too often, I remember right after the pandemic, there was the Gentle Minions thing. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but the Minions came out, and all these kids that had been trapped in isolation finally had a chance to go to the movies. And they dressed up, and they were teens, so they were a little rowdy, right? They threw some things, but they dressed up and they went to the movies, and they were posting about it. And I was on a call with all these exhibitors on a Monday morning, and they canceled a bunch of shows, and they banned teens from going to the movies. Oh my God. And I was there were two things. I was first, there was this whole list of the biggest circuits, and they were all their security heads being I just wish there was a way we could have known about this in advance, which Like in my mind, you know, hey, you have a lot of staff. And a lot of that staff would have known that this was happening because it was all over the internet. And they didn't feel empowered to tell you. They didn't feel empowered to say, hey, there's this thing happening. Why don't we welcome people? Why don't we have red carpets? Why don't we give people foam bananas to throw? Instead, it was like, how do we keep these rowdy kids out of our theater? And the same thing with Minecraft. Let's keep these kids out. Instead of saying, this was the most amazing experience for these kids. They're all still screaming chicken jockey. Like, you know, I've got a 7-year-old. He loves it. Like that changes their entire brain chemistry. Why are we not leaning into it? It's like, no, there's our problem. They're leaving popcorn on the floor. Let's shut them out. And it's the exact wrong answer.
That's one of the most successful things that we've done at Vidiots, which was, the word cinephile. Sure, whatever. You're smart. I know you can list all the French New Wave directors and. That's cool, I'm down with it. I have a master's degree in film studies too. But when I joined Vidiots and thought I could keep it in Santa Monica, I was stepping onto the deck of the Titanic and thinking you could prevent it from breaking in half. When I knew that we had to reopen, when I knew we had to close, that was not the intention when I took that job. I thought I could really save it in Santa Monica. But when I knew that we couldn't, and we had to start developing a business plan, and I had to figure out who could teach me what a business plan was, because I had to Google what is a business plan. The one thing in early conversations with the 4 people who would talk to me about this, I'd said, I need this to be, once we got the building especially, I said, I need this to be the time that I went to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't know what year it was, somebody can tell me.
82?
82.
Oh, 81?
81?
I think it was
81.
Yeah, okay,
apologies.
so I would have been 7 years old or something, and it was in the summer. Again, we didn't have any money. It was expensive to go to the movie theaters for my family, and we went to a commercial movie theater on Long Island somewhere, and I remember vibrating in the lobby. It was vibrating. The thought of something is going to happen in here. Something amazing. I'm gonna see a crush. Something unbelievable is gonna happen in here. And when we were figuring out what to do with Vidiots, I said, people were using words like cinephile, and we were getting a lot of comparisons to the American Cinematheque, and I was like, stop. Go back to the feeling of a 7-year-old in the lobby of the chain movie theater, going into Raiders of the Lost Ark and feeling that something big was going to happen. Let's get that. And I think I was told incessantly college kids wouldn't come. We're right by Occidental. I was told teenagers would never come. I was told forget tweens. They don't have the attention span. They can't do it. I have kids. I was like, I think they can do it. Within 6 weeks, we were getting groups of teenagers dropped off by their moms and dads and saying they were coming in with their cash, not even the Cash App. They were, we treat them, they are my most important demographic because ultimately they will go see your movies. They will sign up for streaming services. They are now growing up in the video store. They have no idea it's crazy that they're growing up in a video store. They want to be projectionists. They want to do all these things. That's the community part of it that backs up the data. They're there. Yep. I got 15 kids who lined up right there. They're watching the movie. They're not fucking with their phones. They're watching the movie. So it's there. You just have to, these guys need to acknowledge it.
Yeah, you have to love the experience. You have to love your customers.
Yeah, and I keep saying, you can't think of this as, you have to think of this as hospitality. We ultimately work in hospitality and in customer service.
It's like directors.
It's directors. You do. Nobody ever talks about it that way, but that's what it is.
You can't be a guest in your own home.
No.
Well, as the hospitality chief of this panel, I'd love to shift to to another clip to talk exactly what you just talked about how to appeal to audiences and what you're booking. So let's take a look at this. This is made by Vox, looking at what independent theaters are up to.
So the way it works is, if you want to play a film, you have to rent a license from the studio that made it. And that's true for all theater owners, big and small.
I have one screen versus an AMC that has 16 screens and shareholders. I'm a small theater with no debt, no investors, and no partners. So I have more flexibility and I can control pricing. It's easier for me.
On the ticket sales, you're paying, sometimes 50 to 60%. Movie tickets alone, you wouldn't survive. We started with $11 tickets back in 2011, and now we're up to, I think it's $18. $7 in almost 15 years isn't too bad. So we try to remain affordable.
If we price people out, they're not going to come to the movie. So we have like a senior price, and we have a price for kids, and we have discounts all the time. So if you, for example, receive SNAP, you can contact us and we can give you a discounted $5 ticket so that your kids can watch movies. Because what am I doing with a movie theater if my own people can't watch movies?
We have a BOGO, buy one, get one free promo. So if you buy a regular price ticket and come see a movie, the next morning you get a promo that's good for like 45 days. We're just thanking you for coming and come back again. Half price.
The hardest part of owning an independent theater is programming. The big ones, they have 15 screens to fill. Most independent theaters have single or double or maybe 4 screens, but they're small.
In the larger venue, we have 7 screens, so we can fit almost everything we want to play there, but here we only have 3 screens. It's very difficult to make decisions because we want to play a lot of different movies, and if you make a mistake and pick the wrong movie that flops, then it really hurts you here.
I have one screen. I had to choose between Megan 2.0 and F1. Megan had done great the first one here. I mean, we sold out. The numbers clearly show that this particular community loves that movie. They did not, I didn't do well with Megan 2.0. I would have done better with F1. It's tough on business when no one's coming to watch a movie that you bet all your money on.
And that's sort of why we do a lot of our events. It's like sort of that insurance policy, right? We're not just reliant on whatever the first run is for that given week.
We have birthday parties and we rent out the space for different things, but also why I have a standalone cafe. So even if no one is coming to the movies, people are still coming in to get food.
Maggie, I'm curious your thoughts about how are you attracting younger audiences? Because we hear a lot, young people don't want to go to the movies. The other audience that never gets talked about, and I don't know why, and there may be some people in the audience that are of this demographic, is the seniors. They, in many cases, evacuated the movie-going experience during the pandemic, and many have not come back. Do you have a strategy for booking films that attract, obviously, young folks with families, but certainly also seniors? Because that just was a huge part of the movie business that has really taken a hit. Just curious about that.
I mean, we've never had the time or the money to analyze who will come to what. I mean, we look at the world, and there are 3 of us who program. I'm still trying to get out of the weeds on programming, but I have an instinct for it. That's what I've done for my career for 30 years. So we have our audience, most independent, most repertory theaters skew much older, and the complaint usually is how to get young people. Sometimes I have the opposite thing where I'm like, I want to show a black and white movie and get more than 45 people there, and it's not Sunset Boulevard. Like, how am I going to do that? And we really just stopped playing those games, and we just said, open and listen to the community, talk to the community. Northeast LA is really diverse. It's like, in every way, shape, and form, it's diverse. And and we look at we look at our numbers. So we'll go like, what happened the last time we showed The Third Man, which is my favorite movie? How did we do with it? If we could get a full house 3 times for The Third Man, we can probably get Gun Crazy in there at some point. Like, we just you start if you start with Ghostbusters, you can get them to Clue, then you can get them to this, then you can get to them to that, and now it was a tough time in the beginning. Yeah, there were movies where you're like, I can't believe like 17 people showed up for this masterpiece. Now it's a lot easier. They trust you. You have to talk to your community, and that doesn't mean like sending a survey out. That means like being there in the room, going to community meetings, making friends with the high school kids, talking to them in the lobby. It means you live there for a while, but then they trust you. So then the kids that came out for Titanic or whatever they came out for, you can then push them to a movie they've never heard of. And so your numbers just organically get better and better. But you know, older people, yeah, there are times where I look around and I'm like, holy shit, I'm the oldest person in here. How did this work out? But people are, Vidiots is like also has that brand recognition. So, and it has been in LA for such a long time that, yeah, we don't really struggle with the diversity of our audiences. It's just very organic. It's really quite there. But I would like it to be easier to get people to come to silent film. But we'll get there.
But on like, I don't know if any of you understand why when they're saying like, we have to decide, I've got 2 screens, I have to decide between 2 movies. Because you would think, why can't you just play both? Fun fact.
Yeah, this is different.
Yeah, this is for a commercial theater, for a first-run theater, the way that the studio programming works, they don't program for showtimes, right? So you're Megan. Do you need a 10 a.m. showtime? Absolutely not. But you ask for the entire screen. You ask for a clean screen. So you have every single showtime on a particular screen, sometimes multiple. And this is fine if you've got 25 screens, but if you're a small town, not only do they demand a clean screen, but the bigger the studio and the more leverage they have, they demand that for multiple weeks. So now you're in a small town, your town will come out for the first weekend and it'll be done, and it'll sit there empty. And the reason for doing that is if you're Disney and you've got Moana, you want Moana, you know, that'll play during the day, but you want to make sure you take that 10 p.m. slot because you don't want Warner Brothers putting their horror movie at 10 p.m. and maybe beating you during that weekend, right? So we have an environment that is intensely anti-competitive. There is no competition, and so we have theaters that are at 11% occupancy. And IMAX screens, these are the screens that's 30% of the box office. We're pushing people there, and you get 1 week, you get a 1 week run. There's a lot of money to be made in those screens. Shouldn't a movie be able to play on an IMAX for 4 weeks if there's business and just split it around for the right showtime? Shouldn't we be gathering that information from our audiences and programming? Because things are digital now. It used to cost $2,000 to put a movie on a screen. It was a big, heavy thing, and then when the industry switched to digital, there was a virtual print fee so that the studios had to still bear that cost. It costs now $40 to put a movie on a screen, not $2,000. And the business model hasn't changed. It is digital and affordable, and we are not making the industry malleable and data-based. It makes no sense. These business practices are outdated, and they're not serving audiences. It's 2 sides fighting, divorcing parents, and the kids are the ones that are suffering. And our culture is suffering. It's ridiculous.
I'm curious, Jason and Brad, if you can talk about how you see the programming for the Village Director Circle, what you're talking about with American Cinematheque. Are you involved in the vision of that programming? Are they going to be doing it within what consultation and arrangement and kind of unification we'll be having around?
It's early days, so I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I'll say 2 things. One, I really trust their programming. They've done an incredible job. I think similar to Maggie, they've figured out a way to get people to feel as though they are part of an organization where they are members, they're excited, they're showing up, they're curious. I think Cinematheque has done really well with their 70mm festival. They've done really well with their Beyond Festival, which is all genre film, fun films, old and new. And then they do something called Bleak Week, which is a week of depressing movies, and they sell out these depressing movies. So they have figured out a way to make coming to their screens really exciting. So I really trust them, and that's going to be a lot of the programming. What we want to do, because this is a 1,400-seat house and should also be showing the #1 movie in the country on opening weekend, is have a split. It should be a split between rep theater and new movies. And finally, our theater has been a home of movie premieres since 1930. So I think there's going to be, that theater's going to get bought out at least 30 times a year and be showing.
More. It's going to be more.
Yeah, movie premieres all the time. And again, what I'm hoping for is that this becomes a spotlight. Because movie premieres are a way to actually signal to the rest of the country, to the rest of the world. They see a red carpet, they see people showing up. It's, you know, what the Chinese theater always did very successfully. So if we could shine a light on a movie theater, because there's movie premieres and movie stars showing up, and then people come in from out of town and they go to that theater because they want to experience what, whoever, showed up for. They now walk into this movie theater and go, this is fantastic. Why don't we have this back home?
Yep.
And that's at least the hope.
Yeah, and they get to leverage the passion of a bunch of filmmakers who got into this for the right reason. It wasn't in a portfolio, it wasn't just an investment.
Right.
And so I think there will be that at play too. It's not like we're going to throttle them. I think they're going to get to take advantage of this beautiful dialogue with all these filmmakers. As Jason's suggesting, it's not just run my latest picture. It's like, here were my inspirations, and what's my dialogue with Jason's, and ooh, that's an interesting weekend or a night, so I think that'll organically over time come into play too.
And one day share our programming. I mean, that's what would be really exciting, is if people like Maggie, who is like an expert at getting people to show up for movies, if there could be other theaters across the country who are leaning on that, or, if they can start leaning on American Cinematheque, or leaning on the directors who are owners who go, all right, Guillermo said you got to watch this week. It's like, all right, if Guillermo says so. That could be a way where this starts to travel.
Yeah, and I can say as somebody who goes to Vidiots and goes to the various American Cinematheque, the amount of times that things sell out is far more than you might imagine up here in Santa Barbara. They sell out a lot, especially things like Beyond Fest, whenever there's Q&As. And because LA and Santa Barbara have access to all of these amazing directors and actors, and you get a lot of appearances. And so it's a unique place to go to the movies, which I think here in town, Spiff is doing the same, bringing people. It's part of what makes it exciting, that there's someone, for instance, all of you are here. That's why you have people here. No offense, no one came to see me, so they're here for you. Which I think leads to a conversation about how you market theaters. I think some of the questions, and again, I want to take a look at a conversation about marketing that Vox had.
What we do at Screen Dollars, we sort of support advertising. You've worked hard as an exhibitor to get that customer in the door. There's an opportunity to make money as a result of putting advertising and sponsored messages in front of that customer. That can be posters, giveaways, the pre-show program that plays before the trailers and before the feature film.
Ads are a source of revenue, just like concessions are. I think ads are necessary because it helps small theaters to make money, but we're sensitive to the fact that people can watch commercials at home.
We don't do any advertising before our movies. I think that's a differentiator between us and other theaters, bigger chains. So we've been pretty dogmatic about that since day one. I mean, we love the revenue, but don't need that headache for our customers. We want them to enjoy the experience. Occasionally, like if something's like an event's not selling as well, we'll go through like former ticket purchasers and then we'll just email them like a promo code, which works well. That's really it. It's more about promoting individual events, and that's mostly through our social media.
Very active social media makes a big difference in the success of a theater these days. And ironically, I feel that the independent theaters generally are better suited for doing that.
I'm curious.
Low ticket alert. Low ticket alert. I just had that in my stomach here.
Low ticket alert.
Low ticket alert.
Yeah. I'm curious, to your point, I'm curious how you get people, I mean, to be really blunt, you don't seem to need to drive people to Vidiots. I mean, it's an outsized, the sort of brand identity and publicity and acclaim for the Vidiots, it's national, it's not just local. I mean, you can turn on national news outlets and they'll talk about Vidiots. How did you create that brand? How did you build the marketing in the early days? Is it social media? Is it word of mouth? Is it by doing traditional publicity? what are all the levers if you're someone thinking about who works in independent theaters, someone who's thinking about how to market independent film? What are the tricks? Because it was a very long time to build Vidiots, but it was a very quick ramp up to success.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, yeah, socks. You have the
I wear my
Vidiots
Vidiot socks all the time.
Yeah. So one, I did inherit the coolest logo on the entire planet. A lot of people, when I said I wanted to relaunch Vidiots, several people told me I needed to change the name. Nobody would take it seriously. And I was like, you can go over there. I will nod and smile, but go over there. We did have this logo. We had, certainly younger people in LA didn't know what Vidiots was, but I do think we're founded and helmed by women. Patty and Kathy in the video are our founders. They're still very much involved with Vidiots. I fell in love with them the first time I met them, and just was like, as much as I love video stores, as I said, but like I also was like, their legacy is so important, and I hate to say it because they are women. They have never gotten the credit for doing for Los Angeles and the film industry what they should have been. They should have been getting this credit for a long, long time. And I always like a challenge to save a legacy, so that was a good fit. But when I inherited Vidiots, I had a logo, and I had a lot of love. People don't have a negative association with Vidiots. I had worked in film festivals, Sundance, Film Independent, LAFF, the Independent Spirit Awards. There's a negative association with all of those people, with all of those places, because they reject people. They inherently have to reject somebody. Vidiots doesn't reject anybody, including if you're a filmmaker and you made the crappiest movie ever, and you say, will you put it on the shelves at Vidiots? Patty and Kathy always said yes. So it had no negative association with it. And, you know, sometimes being underestimated is the best place to be, because there is, you know, no perception of like what you can fail at. And so long story short, I had a logo, I had a lot of 30 years worth of love. I had some connections of my own. You know, I've been working with filmmakers for a long, long time. And I had a small, very small group of people who really believed in it. I am Gen X out my ears. I hate social media. I like resisted it, but I kind of learned how to use Instagram. And then I met our marketing director, who is not Gen X, who's younger, but had grown up at Vidiots. And she just got it. She got it. She just could see what we were trying to do, and she knows all of the things. We have a lot of conversations about the apocalypse and what happens when Instagram fails, because it will at some point, and what that means for us, which meant that we really leaned into our email blast list. We do a lot of giveaways. We give a lot of tickets away. We do a lot of things for the community. We do a Day of the Dead thing. I get like little kids to come carve pumpkins with real knives, which is frightening, but like, you know, we just do a lot of stuff in connection with the people who live in the neighborhood. And you know, I think we have a very compelling argument. But I also think a lot of what has made Vidiots successful is that it's not just, we are not just a movie theater. We are the physical media component. And so having this dual thing, and then showing that the video store has been enormously successful overnight. It was successful. We had our busiest day of rentals. The day that we opened was the busiest day of rentals we've ever had in 40 years of, and we've broken that record 100 times since. Thank you.
It's amazing.
Yeah, 100 times since.
And I recommend going to Senior Fish before you go there.
Yeah.
Jason and Brad, I'm curious your thoughts about marketing, not of theaters, but of films. It used to be kind of routine, you know, especially on the publicity side. You know, we do a press junket, we do an EPK, we would have a premiere, we would, you know, do national press, we'd send you to the Good Morning America, you'd do all the nationals, we'd pick Newsweek or Time, you know, standard. Now, how do you reach people? I'm curious for things like Saturday Night as well as Ghostbusters, very different audiences. Are you finding that studios know, and Brad, this question for you, of course, too, on TV side and film side, are you finding that people know how to find the audiences that you need to drive the messages to get people to see your films? I mean, the box office is there, so they are, but I'm curious if you feel like we're really reaching people enough to get them to theaters.
What do you think?
It's a horror show in my head right now. I am replaying every conversation I've had with heads of marketing at the studios.
Yeah.
Pat, we know better.
Yeah.
You know? I remember one of those conversations, he'll remain nameless, but my producer on a picture was looking at the release date. They were talking about saying, hey, are you at all concerned with this picture, this thing, The Hangover? And head of marketing, yeah, it's no one's gonna go to that picture. It's don't even worry about it. It's like in Spinal Tap. Don't worry, Boston's not a college town. And what's funny is when data can become the enemy, when suddenly they do fall back on, again, an algorithm, it's always a fight. And I always think as a filmmaker, you're trying to bring them back to what is unique and what you believe emotionally is going to connect with the audience, who you think the audience is, breaking the assumptions that they're doing, or the dangers of they're trying to overreach and knock something out to a 4-quadrant film or turn it into it, which it's not. And they're going to pay the price, but they don't get it until the opening weekend. So it's very complicated. I mean, I know that, I always come back to like snakes on a plane. I think the sort of fantasy that social media is going to just take care of your movie has been proven absurd. So again, I'm just flashing at every argument where I want to sit and get in their faces, talk to them about where I think the movie's going to connect emotionally. Put me out there to talk about it. This cast cares. Let's find a way. Don't fool yourself into thinking we fit into this Happy Meal over here. Yeah.
I see a lot of fear. That's what I sense. And I've had meetings even with marketing on films where they literally just go, we don't know. And some of the wisdom has become, well, you have to really focus on your very specific fan base. Get your fan base to show up, and hopefully they'll communicate to others. Obviously, we need to rely less on traditional media and lean into digital and social media. But frankly, something you said a lot earlier that I really connect with is we spend so much time talking about what we're scared of. And I don't think anyone operates well from fear. I don't think filmmakers operate well from fear if they're telling stories because they think they're scared of telling something else. And I don't think studios operate well when they're scared. When studios are scared, they act tight. They make movies they think people want instead of going with their guts and telling great stories. They don't trust the artists that they're working with. And they don't put movies out into the world with a sense of confidence. We spend way too little time talking about what works, what excites us about our jobs, what is joyful, what people are reacting to. And frankly, what I see success is when, and it could be on a big or a small movie. I don't care if it's Barbie with their pink campaign or this new Marty Supreme campaign, where you can tell they're having a good time. And they're confident and they go, you know what, screw it. And in a weird way, look, we're in a moment of transition. We don't know how to get people to go to the movies. We don't know why as much they go to the movies or don't go to the movies. And there's a beauty to playing a moment where you don't know. Go for it, have fun. I mean, you don't know if it's gonna work. In a weird way, that's the best way, part of being a filmmaker right now. You don't know if people are gonna show up at your movie. You don't know if people are gonna go to the movies, So just make a movie, like make what's in your heart. And if you're gonna connect, it's connect and admit to yourself, you don't know why. There's a truth to that. And God, if I I could give one thing to all the marketing departments at the studios right now, it would be joy and confidence.
Yeah. And also, stop putting people into boxes. Like, just the beauty of home video and video stores was that when Moonstruck came out, I was like, what the hell is that? I was 11 when Moonstruck came out. Moonstruck is one of the most important movies in my life. I never should have seen it at 11 years old. It developed me as to throw out a word I don't like, cinephile. It made me pursue things, and that was one of the beauties of that marriage of theatrical and, I mean, they were in contention in the beginning. I think there was a false misunderstanding that home video would somehow kill theatrical. Of course it didn't, but not until recently. But stop putting people into boxes. Stop assuming that an 11-year-old won't want to go to see Tully.
Or calling a movie a girl movie so that you tell all the men in the world, don't go to this movie. It's like when toys in the 70s were non-gendered, Legos were non-gendered, you know, shit was non-gendered. Same thing, stop assuming who a person is based on what they want to see or what a movie is based on who you think will go to it. Make the movie with joy and fearlessness, and then let as many people as possible hear about it and see it and get to it. Well, which helps if you can hold a movie longer, and you can hold a movie a lot longer if you're not demanding these clean screens. But there's also the awareness, right? So another fun fact is, like, you know, they're talking about the ads before a movie, but even the trailers before a movie are paid for, and it's very expensive. And so you're not getting the right trailer for the right movie that you're in front of a lot of the time. You have to pay to have your showtime listed on a movie theater's page. Otherwise, you have to search for it. I just found this out working on an indie film. You have to pay to have a movie on there that's going to make a theater money on a better split, by the way. An independent title will give the movie theater more. The movie theater owns that movie and won't advertise it to their community. If you want something, if you're getting a social media push from a movie theater, that was paid for. They're not going to just push out movies to the right audiences. That's not how it works. So, like, thinking about one of your movies, I saw Saturday night. I went to Alamo to see it, and my stepdad is a big cinephile and also has like a whole SNL book. And I was talking about the movie to him. He's like, "There's a SNL movie," and I was like, "Because he's not on social media." And so if you're not on social media, and now he doesn't have cable, right? He's just on streaming platforms, so he's not getting marketed to at all. We're just ignoring an entire generation of people and telling them that the movies aren't for them anymore. So I was the one who told them that movie existed. And he would have been like day one at that movie. Like, he gets to be a snob, talk about history. Like, that's his like sweet spot right there. Like, and he didn't even know because it wasn't marketed to him. Because when he went to whatever movie he saw more recently than that, Sony had a different movie that they were paying to have on the screen, or Warner Brothers was paying twice as much, or whoever, but no, he wasn't being marketed to. And so we're undercutting audience development and growth because everything is an arms race.
Well, there's assumptions that just get made about, as you say, the boxes. And as filmmakers, I think Jason will relate, we have to be rogue so often. I'm remembering I made a film, Lemony Snicket, Series of Unfortunate Events, and the success of those books, which then gave them at least the courage to pay for that movie. The books are murderous. They're Grimm's fairy tales on steroids, which was why younger readers loved them. They could put their finger in the light socket for a moment safely. But the studio didn't understand the franchise that they bought. I could tell up front. So even as I was prepping the movie, I was like, how can I convince the head of marketing and the head of the studio who their audience actually is? And we pulled together a town hall meeting of 9 to 13-year-olds in my art department. And I walked, it was all videotaped. And I walked them through all of the set design and the wardrobe and all of it, because I wanted their feedback, and sat them down. I said, so now, of course, in the book, Count Olaf well, he kills this guy. We can't do that. I can't have Jim Carrey kill this person. And they're like, yes, you have to. Well, wouldn't it be okay if he was just rude? No, come on. Cut that together and delivered it to Sherry Lansing and Rob Friedman and said, please, this is your audience. You think you know what a 9 to 13-year-old wants. You'll just destroy this thing. You know, and it's crazy because here you are, they should be the custodians given the size of it. So we have to do these things. We have to constantly try to remind them. Yeah.
Well, good for you doing that.
You have to. It's like, what do I need to do to have my baby survive?
Yeah, but you know, it's harder and harder to get anyone to pay for something. So I see it's easier and easier than to just say, fine, well, at least I got this money. So, all right, you know. It's the bravery, the optimism is so important, and it's in short supply. And so it is a strength in numbers. It is believing in yourself. It is kind of taking the voices that tell you you're wrong and respecting them and putting them to the side and fighting for something. And we need more fight now than ever before.
And if you miss Saturday night in theaters, you have to watch it another way. I think for that, I'll turn to David Lynch.
Now, if you're playing the movie on a telephone, you will never in a trillion years experience the film. You'll think you have experienced it, but you'll be cheated. It's such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone. Get real.
I wish that was an iPhone ad.
That would be amazing.
They cut it together perfectly for that, didn't they? I would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about finances.
I thought we were going to talk about the Pope.
Well, we are.
Right?
Did you guys see this last week?
God says,
I can read it to you.
The Pope made a speech about movie theaters last week and the importance of movie theaters, how they are cultural hubs and we need to save them and continue going to them.
You know what, Jason?
I'm now a Catholic.
Studios.
It happened.
You know what, Dustin, can you jump ahead to the Pope?
Sorry.
Yeah, there it is. I was about to read it.
It's not the Chateau Marmont, but it's not bad. Pope Leo XIV hosting Hollywood luminaries under the frescoes of Vatican City's Clementine Hall. Actors and directors including Spike Lee, Monica Bellucci, Chris Pine and Australia's own Cate Blanchett gathered to hear a sermon of support for the movies.
Cinema is much more than just a screen. It is a crossroads of desires, memories and questions.
Key to the Pope's message, a call to protect struggling local theatres after box offices in the US and Canada had one of their worst summers on record.
I urge institutions not to give up and to cooperate in affirming the social and cultural value of this activity.
And a call to resist the push towards generative artificial intelligence.
The logic of algorithms tends to repeat what works, but art opens up what is possible. When cinema is authentic, it does not merely console, but challenges.
His Holiness's words today were a real charge not to shy away from difficult, painful stories. And he was talking about tears that often people are unable to shed in their everyday life, as well as laughter, you know, that often happens in the cinemas.
A call to worship for those whose church is the movie theatre. Matthew Lane, ABC News.
Dustin, can you go back to the community slide, please?
In the context of the local community where their prospective customer lives.
Movie theaters build community. When I got here, it was me, there was a pet store, and a flower shop. There was nothing else down here. Now, every storefront is occupied. Buildings are going up. People are moving to the neighborhood. So movie theaters are a great anchor for businesses.
Park Slope, I mean, that is a very established neighborhood, definitely family driven. So family movies crush there, like in Williamsburg, more of an indie crowd. They're just totally different venues. Also, it's not just the at-large community, there's like sub-communities, you know? And so that's where our events really shine. We'll have a 35mm print or a Q&A, like something special to just make it a different experience than what you could get at home. And we sweat the details. And I think that's the important part of a successful business. You know, you don't ever take anything for granted. You're always trying to improve.
I am a servant first, right? And I care about the community. And I think that's important. During COVID, people needed somewhere to go, and we were allowed to stay open because we became essential. We gave away our food at 4 o'clock every day. People said, look, my computer is at my desk and I lost my job. I can't apply for unemployment on my phone. So we provided laptops. We want to be here for the community, and it matters. And I think because we are here for them, they also are there for us.
People always say, oh, it's doom and gloom and like the theater business is gonna go away. It's like, no, I don't think so. Actually, it's becoming more valuable. That experience is becoming more valuable than it ever has been.
Some of us may fold or may have to pull back or may have to change the way we do business. But at the end of the day, there's nothing like the movie-going experience. We're not going anywhere.
I want to ask two neighborhoods, Glassell Park, Eagle Rock, which I've lived in and knew what it was like before Vidiots came in. And then Brad, you and I both went to graduate school at UCLA. Westwood, Jason, you know, Westwood used to be the movie-going hub. The whole neighborhood hummed with like video arcades and restaurants, and
You used to cruise there.
yeah,
I'm
it was
dating
the
myself.
place.
Yeah.
The houses are doing great. The neighborhood's not. I'm just curious.
Brad, about your cruising days.
I had to split my time between Van Nuys Boulevard and Westwood. No, to be in the back, like an 8th grader in the backseat of somebody's car, like cruising Westwood. No, but yeah, night and day.
No, Westwood is, and you mentioned, I mean, I remember going to midnight streams at the Plaza. That's one of those that, the Plaza was great, and the festival.
Yep.
And those were all, I mean, Boogie Nights at Man National. There's incredible footage if you look online of people fainting at the opening of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So go check that out on
I was
YouTube.
at the National also.
Yeah, it's the National. What are you hoping to do, I hope, for Westwood? Because this could change the face of the neighborhood. And then that's also a question then for you, Maggie, how has this theater changed the neighborhood? Because it has. So I'm curious about your thoughts about these things.
I think Kevin Costner was right. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And when I've looked at Westwood. I've lived in Los Angeles my entire life. I've watched Westwood change. And look, people migrate. They go to new places. People love the Grove. It was kind of an interesting moment, actually, when the Grove was built and the Hollywood and Highland complex was built simultaneously. And Caruso was right. People wanted Town Square, not Times Square. And people flocked to the Grove for that reason. They just wanted a place where they could walk around. And Westwood is that, and Westwood will be that again. There's a tower at the center of Westwood, and it is the Village Theater. And it just hasn't been what it could be. And we're hoping that when it is, and people show up there, they'll walk around that neighborhood again. You'll have UCLA students. UCLA is a block away, and if I'm allowed to say UCLA on this campus. And it'll come back to life. Look, in 2028, Westwood Village is going to be the Olympic Village. So I have no doubts for Westwood, just because I believe in our instincts as humans.
And there's active redevelopment right across the way. You know, there's certain successful streets in terms of retail and others that are not. But so it will all be kind of coming online at the same time.
Yeah. And what did Vidiots do for Eagle Rock? And
I mean, we brought back a massive, commercial corridor. There was, and we also did it thoughtfully because parts of Northeast LA are being gentrified so fast and so hard. It's totally screwing up communities. It's not like Westwood. This is a really deeply residential neighborhood that in the 60s, 70s, 80s was thriving. And then it died. It just died. Empty storefronts, block to block. Now we've got a record store next door, and the vegan restaurant that was like going to close and just going like, Maggie, when are you opening? When are you opening? When are you opening? Now they've got 2 other locations because they did so well from the time that we opened.
I love the indie theaters like, we got your vegans, don't worry.
I know, I love it. They're coming, baby. They're coming. Yeah,
Fish in a barrel.
totally. It happened. You know, the skate shop that was going to close was like, when is this happening?
Right.
They're okay.
You got natural wine down the street.
We got natural wine down the street. I mean, we're also on a corridor where there were like 4 of us, all kind of, we were the last to open, but there were 2 restaurants and then a third down the street. And we talked to each other. Again, we're in hospitality. Yes, I want to talk about movies all day long. What do I mostly talk about? I mostly talk about, you know, parking, the pissed off neighbor, HR, and then together collectively we're talking about, like, you guys gonna be open on Thanksgiving? No, we're gonna close. Okay, great. The 3 of us are gonna close. What are your hours? How does this all work? Unrelated, I have a relationship with Westwood Theaters because the Los Angeles Film Festival, which is one of the best festivals in the country, for years we kind of bounced around. We were at the DGA and in
I think I
West
played
Hollywood.
every version of
You
the LA
did.
Independent Film Festival.
That was with me.
Yeah, I know.
That was
I remember.
how we first met.
Yeah.
So when we moved to Westwood, which by the way, young Maggie was like, this is never gonna work. We're a Hollywood-based, I don't wanna drive to, it was the best years we ever had of that film festival were in Westwood. Why? Because a festival needs a village.
Yeah.
And Westwood is a village. And we were bouncing between all those theaters. The only one we didn't use, I think, was the Bruin. We were in every single movie theater. It was the golden era of that film festival. Bad management, well, the festival's no longer, but it could easily come back with Westwood theaters coming back. Festivals can be, it can happen.
The time crunch I feel us in is frankly that in this moment where we are trying to get a foothold, there are a lot of classic movie theaters like the ones in your book, that I see them losing their footing and they are getting turned over. I just drove my daughter to college in Colorado, and along the way, I would just search. I'm just searching for what's the best movie theater in this town that we're passing. And a couple times we'd, go in and it's like, oh no, it's an ice cream shop now. And it's like, all right, do you still have the theater in the back? It's like, oh, if you had only been here 6 months ago, you could have seen it. And that scares me, because when we talk about classic movie theaters, which are inspiring, but a lot of this conversation is about how do you inspire people? And architecture does inspire people. We're talking about buildings that can't be built again. That genuinely scares me. When they tore down the National in Westwood, one of the best theaters in the country, it's gutting because of all of our memories there, but it's also gutting because you can't build that building again. It's too expensive to build. You can't get people to build that for a movie theater. Maybe you could build something gorgeous for like a cultural arts center that's going to do theater, that's not considered profit, it's a nonprofit, but the idea that there was a theater that was a 100-year-old building that was stunning, that had the kind of craftsmanship that people maybe don't even know how to do anymore, that is what scares me. And in LA and New York, we're going to be able to protect some of them, but look, if we're losing them in LA, and now, by the way, once you buy a movie theater, you get every Facebook article about every movie theater that goes for sale in the country. It's like, you should buy this one in Wisconsin. It's like, I can't. All my money's in Westwood now. I'd love to buy that. And you start Googling, you start looking at each one of them, and they're stunning. They're stunning, they're community hubs, and we do have to work quick so that we can inspire others to hold on to their own.
I guess one of the places I want to take us is to this next slide, and I'm curious, all 4 of you, your thoughts about this. So Warner Brothers is up for sale. So there are a few takers: Paramount, NBC Universal, parent Comcast, and Netflix. So there's a big concern, because Netflix is not exactly interested in theatrical, that they'll play out the contracts they have now. If they have a theatrical release in the contract, they'll do it. If not just Netflix, any other streamer, were to purchase Warner Brothers and say, you know what, our film's no longer going to be playing in theaters, I'm concerned about the ecosystem for theaters. We already lost Fox when Disney purchased them. I'm interested in how that affected rep. Like, are you able to get Fox titles out of Disney? Or what's the ramifications of this? Because this could be a tectonic change to this industry for filmmakers looking for places to distribute their films and to produce their films, for theaters looking for films to show. I feel like we have so much crazy stuff that happens in our world so often that it's just another crazy headline that is fear. What are your thoughts about the differences between Paramount, Netflix, and Comcast buying Warner Brothers, which also, of course, has the MGM library before 1981?
Who wants to go first?
Well, we realize too, it's an auction.
Auction. Yep.
That's grotesque and bizarre to think about.
Yeah.
It is an auction. Am I going to go bid on that empty lot? No, I'm going to go bid. It's crazy town.
Yeah.
And a sign of how fucked up Zaslav. Anyway.
It was Zazzy.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I have a trade association perspective. I was at the lawyers are calling. I was at NATO, now Cinema United, when the Fox Disney merger happened. And we had many vigorous debates internally about what to do. And ultimately, Disney called the big exhibitors and said, we're your best partner on Windows. We promise to give you just as many movies as you had with Disney Fox. Don't you dare fight this. And we're a trade body. We have members that pay a lot of money and members that don't. And the loudest voice often wins in a trade body that has membership that is that complicated. So we did not say anything. And none of those promises came true. And again, you can't force a company, whether it's Paramount, whoever it is, right? You cannot force a company to release theatrical movies if that's no longer in their business. If it's in the contract, they have to honor them, right? That's just what they have to do. You have to honor a contract. But you cannot tell Netflix, like the Department of Justice, not that they would, but even if they wanted to, cannot tell a business that they have to operate in a way that they do not want to operate. That's not how this works. So I think this whole auction mentality, this like, let's keep consolidating, let's focus our revenue on the losses we all have, which is streaming, should let filmmakers feel like, wait a minute, there's actually a moment for me to go outside of this system. This used to be the gold star. I knew I was good at my job and I got an A+ on my assignment if Warner Brothers wanted to buy my movie. But that should not be the gold star anymore. There is another way to make your movie. There is a world in which you can take all of the talent that's out there, all the marketing talent, because studios don't do their own marketing. They hire all the same companies to do it, right? There are these experts out there that love this kind of art, that are experts in it and would love to try and find new ways to do it. There have to be other ways to finance movies. There have to be other ways to market movies and release movies. This is the time to do it. Find partners that actually want to invest in your art and in the IP that comes along with it and all of the value chain that you can have. There are people that do want to do this kind of work, and I just don't think the studios are quite as invested, and I think that doesn't mean that that's the end of cinema. Just because they were the start of cinema doesn't mean that they have to be the end of it.
I think we have to ask ourselves how much we care about culture.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers owns Wizard of Oz. It's on the lot of Warner Brothers that they made a film called Casablanca. A few years ago, they made a movie called Barbie. I would say all three films are significant not only as works of art, but they're significant in that they are films that taught us how to answer very complicated questions that we are facing on a daily basis. How do we be courageous? How do we get further outside of what we think in our head prior to going to the movie was normal, acceptable, and then you reach further because you saw an amazing story. When you walk around that lot, you are seeing a culture of people, of craftspeople who are generational craftspeople who learned how to paint, who learned how to be electrics, how to be grips, how to work with lenses. You're going to walk up to buildings that have plaques that say films that were shot there and films that go back a century. So if Warner Brothers gets sold, there are thousands of people who are going to lose their jobs and never get them back again. Depending on who they're sold to, they'll break the company up and portions of that company will cease to exist. Portions, if it gets sold to OpenAI, OpenAI will ingest all that content and will ignore the idea of what copyright is and will simply start to create versions of all that work on its own. If it's bought by a royal family from outside the US, I don't know where they take the culture of this history of this company and where they take it in the future. If they get bought by a fellow studio, there'll be less opportunities for us to make daring and interesting films. And of course, if it gets bought by a streamer, I don't want to think about what that says about the future of theatrical. So we have to actually talk about what's important to us. In the same way that we talk about the environmental crisis and whether we care about this planet, there is a cultural crisis happening. And this is a deep part of the history of Hollywood, one of the great exports of this country. And it's not just a headline, it's not just a joke, it's not just a water tower with a logo. It's something that actually has impact on how we see the world, because these movies that we do view as kids, that we do go into a dark theater and have an impact, they change the way we live forever. They change the way we interact with other people. It is church. It is where we learn these lessons on how to treat other people. So I think it's actually important.
I think because I believe in happy endings, just like Hollywood, I have to leave you with one clip and then I would love your thoughts about it. So let's just go ahead and play this from the much beloved, now vanished National Cinema Day.
There's a film playing across the street.
It's playing at 5.
We can make it. There's going to be 5 minutes of trailers.
I want to get a good seat, you know?
A good seat from which to watch Asgard burn.
Let's show some movies.
We're here to heckle a movie.
75 cents. So what actually happens in this? Movies are dreams that you never forget.
Please retain your stub, sir.
The refreshments are right over there.
Hey, do you want anything?
Popcorn.
Butter plain.
Extra butter.
Some Diet Coke, please.
This is taken.
Not bad seats at all.
Roll film.
I missed the real change.
Sounds like a comedy.
It's a comedy, and it's sexy, and it's action. Gotcha. Total entertainment experience.
Boy, did you see that?
I gotta see it again. Ernie?
I guess I'd love to just go down the list and the panel here and ask you, and I think Jason is picking up exactly where I was on this, which is the notion of culture, what movie theaters are, what they mean to a society. We all got sequestered away during the pandemic. Many of us are lost in our phones. We're remote working, so we're not out and about and thinking about going to theaters. What is the importance of coming together as a community from varied backgrounds in this one secular temple that we all still can go to? What is the point of a movie theater in 2025 into 2026? Brad?
For me, it's pretty spiritual. I'm not a churchgoer, but just again watching that clip, when the lights go down, there's a moment of suspense. There's a moment of mystery, possibility. I sound like Nicole Kidman. And the idea that is possible in a shared experience, to me is what will hopefully endure and is priceless and is timeless. That excitement, I mean, it's still, that's where I still feel like I'm 10. Yeah, so for me, that is it. That's a spiritual experience.
I mean, there are nights, we just had one where I sat in the theater watching people watch a movie, and I was like looking up at the ceiling and seeing where all of the holes had been, and knowing our theater ran from 1929 until 2000 as an independent theater. And the people are like, "Are you proud of yourself?" Yeah, it's more than pride. It is. It's a miracle to do this. It's a miracle to do this, and I'm gonna open video stores all over the country. I don't give a shit if anybody thinks I'm crazy. I will open more video stores all over the country, and we're doing it. We got a pilot program. We're working on it, and now I'm not the crazy video store lady anymore because I believed in the magic and that inner thing in here, that this art form has an incredibly particular way of making you feel. It can connect people that are so different, and it's all possible. Corporate consolidation of an art form should never have been allowed to have happened. The Paramount decree going away was a disaster, but there are enough of us who care, and you're here. Yes. Like, you're in the seats. And and there are kids growing up in the video store now. So I don't know if I think that the larger "it will be okay" is real. I think there's bigger things at foot in the world that may stop the okay from happening. But I mean, movie theaters will be okay because people love them and need them. Everybody wants them.
I feel like movie theaters are where we learn to kiss. Right?
The makeout seats.
Yeah. You think about like where we learn to respond to anything. You think about, what do you do on a first date? Well, that's what I remember happened in a movie once. And it's where we go to release all the feelings that we don't know what to do with. It's where I turn to kind of figure out what I'm supposed to do with my fear or my anger. I'm an optimist. You know, I believe in people so much that it confuses me when things seem to go sideways. And I can tell people want to go out and they want to congregate. You know, we show up for sports, we show up for church, we show up for these places that bring us together. And I don't see movies going the way of vaudeville. I think that the love affair is too deep.
So I get very nerdy, and I apologize in advance, but the fun thing about science is the constant discovery, right? And so the thing that science has uncovered recently in the field of neurobiology is the fact that human beings are not individuals. We do not know how to feel in isolation, right? If I'm looking on a phone and my grandma died, this is my face. If I'm looking on a phone and I just got the job I wanted, this is my face. We don't actually process emotions properly if we don't have an audience. So what happens when you're in a movie theater, the reason that this is so powerful and the reason you can't figure out why this is so important is when you're watching other people on a screen, the same as when you're interacting in real life, but when you're watching people on a screen engage in a behavior, we have this thing called mirror neurons. And our brains automatically want to replicate that. And it changes our brains. The neuroplasticity, I'm saying so many annoying words and I know it, but we actually change our brains every time we witness something like that. So yes, like we know how to kiss, we know how to feel, because we learn feelings from other people's experience of them. But when you're doing that communally, you're also doing this crazy thing, which is that your eye movement syncs to the other people watching a movie with you. Your heart rate syncs. Your breathing is the same because we are all feeling something together. And the end result of mirror neurons and neuroplasticity and all of this, the end result of that is empathy. That is where empathy comes from. We cannot have empathy if our lives are happening in isolation. That's why all this division happens. It's so easy to have no empathy when you're trolling online with each other. It divides us. It is almost impossible to not have empathy when you're in a room together. To all of a sudden have people very politically different from you watching a movie together and crying together, you have now just shared empathy. And so it makes sense that the billionaires of the world do not want us watching movies together. That is why they banned books. Movies will make us more human. We need to fight for this. Like, it is absolutely, it is our culture, it is our humanity, it is real, but like, it does take money and it takes us fighting together. So I do fully believe in it. And without it, what are we? What's the point of any of this? What's the point of any of this if we have no empathy anymore?
Well said. Nicely done.
I'm just the moderator, but I can say just from this vantage point, I loved this conversation. I can't thank the four of you enough for doing this and being here and sharing all of this with you. And thank you all for being here. And I want to remind you we have a reception out there. And thank you so much, Brad, Maggie, Jason, and Jackie for this time.
Thank you.